Welcome to the Sprint 1 demo of the Spring 2022 Pod Reshare Workcycle. My name is Corey Lown, and I'm the tech lead for this workcycle. I'm joined today by the rest of the development team, and we're going to demonstrate the work we completed this first sprint. The platform for open data, Pod, Aggregator is an open source system to aggregate MARC bibliographic and holdings data for institutions that participate in the Pod initiative. The last workcycle on Pod Aggregator took place in fall of 2020 to deliver a minimum viable product. The purpose of this workcycle is to build on the work of the 2020 workcycle. Our goals are to bring Pod to a production state, improve the user interface, refine the data contribution and consumption experience, and build out functionality needed for Pod Aggregator to serve as a data source for Project Reshare. The current development team is mostly new to working on Pod Aggregator, so the focus of this sprint was to build familiarity with the project and establish the groundwork for the next sprints. To that end, we set the context for the project with the team, worked to set up our local development environments, and made changes and improvements to the README based on our discoveries while setting up the application. We also set up an additional server environment for the application where we can stage changes for the development team to test functionality and for stakeholders to preview changes. Now I'm going to turn things over to Nick to show us some user interface changes we made this sprint.
Hi, I'm Nick, a developer on the Access team at Stanford. This iteration, we deployed a collection of small user interface fixes, including changes to the appearance of headers and data tables, the text on the app's homepage, the primary color used in the app's navbar, and the appearance of notification messages. These changes pave the way for an upcoming batch of larger design updates that will help give the app a more cohesive look and feel.
I'm Marlo. I'm a developer on the Access team as well. And I'm going to highlight a few more UI changes. One simple but important change we made this round was to improve the layout of the login, forgot password, and other sign-in related pages. We expanded the width of the form and added better styling and labels compared to the previous layout, which you can see here. This UI change was simple, but since every user interacts with this page frequently, it definitely has a positive impact. We also updated the footer links to add pointers to documentation to help using Pod, and these links are relevant to data contributors and developers alike. Once logged in, we also made some changes. I'm gonna log in really quick. Once logged in, you can see a cleaned up version of the user options dropdown. Users see their email address at the top and a list of any organizations they are a member of in the dropdown, as well as an edit profile link, and if they are a user with the proper permissions, a link to manage other users of the app.
This is Corey again. We were also able to make some changes to the application this workcycle. We added some additional metadata to the Stream API JSON response so that files include their MD5 hash, content type, and size in bytes. As we were learning about how the aggregator application works, we found and fixed a few bugs related to handling of deletes and generation of normalized files. Some plain text deletes were being identified incorrectly as MARC21 files. We made a change to the application so that deletes are more reliably identified as deletes. We also found that deleted records were being included in full normalized files and have fixed this problem so that deleted records are no longer included. We also made a change to how normalized full and delta files are generated. They now are stored with the correct content type and file extension for easier identification. Now I'll turn things back over to Nick.
We spent significant time during this iteration improving the user-facing documentation for the Pod aggregator. The main documentation has been moved to a GitHub wiki so that it remains associated with the code repository, but is easier to edit, especially for non-developers. We also authored a detailed explanation of the concept of streams in the aggregator and the files that comprise them, which is a great introduction to the underlying structure of Pod. We're also beginning to investigate and address more issues that impact the production usability of the aggregator for Pod contributor organizations. On behalf of Harvard, we confirmed that differing record counts shown in the application are an artifact of byte limits imposed by the MARC21 file format. We also tested out the access token functionality and confirmed that organizations can only use tokens to upload files to their own streams, not to streams maintained by other organizations.
Thanks for watching the demonstration of the work that we completed during Sprint 1 of the Pod Reshare Work Cycle. We look forward to showing you what we accomplish in the next sprint.